If Canada's troubles with China weren't already enough, the Foreign Affairs Minister is dealing with a new urgent concern. A Canadian in China reached out to the government after being questioned by Chinese authorities and hasn't been heard from since.
We are working very hard to ascertain his whereabouts, and we have also raised this case with the Chinese authorities.
Tonight, Ottawa confirmed that missing Canadian is Michael Spavor, an Alberta entrepreneur living in China with close connections to North Korea. He's known for facilitating meetings between Kim Jong-un and athletes, including the NBA's Dennis Rodman. Canadian officials don't know where he is, nor do they know the whereabouts of Michael Kovrig. A Chinese spokesman says the NGO Kovrig worked for isn't authorized to operate in China, while a state-run newspaper claims he endangered Chinese national security. This isn't the first time Canadians have faced these kinds of allegations.
We're very well.
Good, thank you.
Kevin Garrett and his wife Julia were living in China and carrying out charity work when they were detained in 2014.
There was a really extreme psychological pressure,
Yes.
and the flights are on 24/7, and the interrogation is very intense and lasted 6 hours every day.
They're calling on Ottawa to be proactive in resolving this case while urging his family to stay calm.
These countries, two countries trying to solve a big thing is going to take some time, and I think just take a big breath and be patient.
That may be easier said than done for Kovrig's family and friends.
He was very, very dedicated. He was so devoted to his work. Every day he wanted to learn more about China, and he was so friendly to anyone he encountered.
Security has now been increased at the Canadian Embassy and consulates in China, a move that comes as the government acknowledges an anti-Canadian sentiment is developing in Beijing.
Canada is demanding officials be given access to Kovrig. They want to see him in person, hear his side of the story before deciding if they'll formally call for his immediate release. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, the government is also addressing today its role in the arrest and possible extradition of Meng Wanzhou, and whether Canada has become a political pawn in a feud between two superpowers in their high-stakes trade negotiations.
It ought to be incumbent on parties seeking an extradition from Canada, recognizing that Canada is a rule of law country, to ensure that any extradition request is not politicized or used for any other purpose.
Chrystia Freeland again putting the onus on the Americans to treat the extradition as a purely legal process. Donald Trump suggested yesterday that Meng could be used as leverage in trade talks with China. Today, his Justice Department nixed that idea.
What we do at the Justice Department is law enforcement. We don't do trade. We are not a tool of trade when we bring the cases.
In terms of the law, Canada didn't really have many options when it came to Meng's arrest.
Canada has a duty to do what we did so far, which is to arrest Ms. Meng, because the U.S. made a request under our extradition treaty for provisional arrest.
But it doesn't mean Canada's hands will be tied as the extradition plays out in the courts.
So the treaty doesn't actually oblige Canada to extradite full stop. It obliges us to enact a full legal process, to go through that process, and to exercise our obligations to our treaty partner in good faith. And Canadian extradition law allows for a number of outcomes here, some of which may result in extradition, some of which may result in extradition being declined.
In a statement today from Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, she says the decision to extradite will ultimately be hers if the courts approve surrendering Meng to the U.S. And if this case keeps getting political, that may be a valid reason to not hand her over. Now, the U.S. has until the end of January to make that formal request for extradition. Then Canada has a month to get the proceedings underway. In the meantime, Meng is settling into her life in Vancouver, where she's already become something of a neighborhood celebrity.
Maybe I should take a picture. Is she in there? All right.
This home is where Meng has to live for now. Under her bail conditions, she'll be under guard and confined to the house overnight. News photographers caught a glimpse of Meng today waving goodbye to visitors from the Chinese consulate. And someone inside the house must be trying to make friends in the media. A Domino's pizza delivery was sent to the front door and then over to that gaggle of reporters out front.